Greetings. Let's talk about the role of parents in the Suzuki program. It can be applied to any other learning modality, not just Suzuki, or maybe even applied to parenting in general. So what is the role of the parent in education, and especially in Suzuki education? And a side note, if you hear the birds in the background, I chose not to close all the windows, so I invite you to be a part of Nature Australia. So parents' role in the education is mainly to provide environment. Man is a son of his environment, Suzuki words, and today I'd like to refer to 4 elements in environment. LSLP: loving, smiling, listening, and practice. Some things are coming very natural, you don't have to work on them. You all love your children. Smiling, you all know how to smile, but maybe you don't always smile to your child. Somebody told me the other day a technique how to practice this curve, because as they say, you fake it until you make it, and every child would like to see a smiling face, especially when they are tackling efforts and challenges and hardships, perseverance and so on. So you might practice by doing this. And even if it doesn't sound actually, even if it looks funny, you might have good results of teaching teaching yourself to smile also when you don't feel that you have any reason to smile. Smiling faces are important to be surrounded by. Think of yourself. If you are surrounded by stern people with this look of I don't have time for all these silly things, you'd better go back and do things appropriately, I will run out of the window if the door will be closed. So number 1, loving, you love your child, or anyway. Smiling, you can practice it until you learn to smile more naturally. Number 3, listening. I remember Suzuki saying to me that even though it seems that listening is quite easy, or the easy component of the Suzuki program, he said to me at the beginning of my stages as a teacher, you will see, Zohara, that convincing people about the importance of listening will be the thing which will take you the longest. And I thought, can't be true. Maybe he's just joking. And the many years of teaching showed me that this is true. This is one of the easiest thing to do when applied, and the hardest thing to convince people to apply it on a daily basis. And then number 4 is the practice. And we will talk more about practice in other places, but the practice, the daily practice, is a part of the environment. So let me recap. Environment: L for loving, S for smiling, L for listening to the recordings, and 4 for practice. Now it might seem a lot to do, and this is just an abbreviation of what the whole picture looks like in our role. But this is to make things more practical, and definitely for now. Now, I will have to say that it won't always be the same. It won't always be the same role. So you don't continue in the same way. You start. Your role changes and adjusts as the child grows up. What you do at the beginning, you build a habit, so later you can drop it. Book 1, we will deal with book 1 in different recording. You might look on YouTube, you might look at different recording about how to practice in book 1, because it's especially important to look at how to start the foundation of the environment. Now, there you will need, in book one, you will need to be fully present. So you would like to invest in book one so you can be free in the other book, or free sooner than you want. So we will talk today in generally and not necessarily book one. A question which I'm being asked a lot by parents is, when will my child be independent? And I understand this question. I completely understand concern of Suzuki parents who feel the mammoth responsibility and job of being a Suzuki parent, and especially nowadays when parents are so busy doing other things, when world demands so much. So let's see, when will really your child be independent? It depends on 4 points, actually 3 points. Independence needs to be earned. This is number one. You cannot push your child to be independent before your child is independent. Number two, you can harm your child by pushing her to do things by herself too early. I don't know what you think about throwing babies, toddlers to the water before they learn to swim, in order to make them swim. Maybe you are actually advocating this. And maybe swimming is something the child does for survival. Learning to play the piano or any other instrument is not necessarily, doesn't come across like survival. It will be later, but it doesn't come across like survival, so it might not yield the same effect. But pushing your child to do something before the child is ready really takes away the safety, the security, the trust, the support that every human being needs. And number three is, you can harm your child by not allowing her to develop independence. I did not say by not allowing her to be independent, I said develop, because you actually take a very important role in helping the child develop independence. So how? How can I help my child to become independent? Let's touch 4 points here. Actually, again, 3 points. Why am I sticking to 4? 3. 1, by asking questions instead of giving answers. By asking questions, you are drawing attention. You're drawing the attention of the child. Example, if I say to a child, your left hand is too loud, I have actually already criticized something. I gave a free and unnecessary feedback. And I took away from the child the ability to develop his discerning. Instead, I can say, what do you think of your left hand? Now when you're going to play the piece, what do you think? Listen and tell me, what do you think of your left hand? Now that's a little tricky, because your child might say, I think my left hand was good. Okay, do not say no, it wasn't good if you think it wasn't good. Ask another question. What do you think of the level in comparison to the right hand, the volume? Did it have the same volume? If your child will say yes or no, ask the child, do you want it to be the same volume? And at the beginning stages, that means that you might actually risk the accuracy of the process, because you don't want to invalidate your child. So if your child will answer, after you finish to ask all the questions and sub-questions, your child will say something that you did not want to hear, accept it. And remember, this is just for today or this week. It won't be like this forever. So let your child giving you opinion which is not your opinion, and maybe even a wrong opinion. So ask questions instead of giving answers. Number 2 is make rooms for mistakes. And room for mistakes means that your body language is tolerating mistakes. Sometimes children don't say anything. Like my grandma used to say, I'm biting my tongue, I'm not saying anything. But whenever she said it, I was sure that she's actually upset about something or disapproves of something. So make room for mistakes by your body language, by the face, the facial expression, because every learning is made of trials and errors. We cannot try without making mistakes. And this is such an important part of any learning process. And think about anything that you learn. And number 3 is believing in your child's ability. Believing in your child's ability. Here is a quote from Dr. Suzuki. Sorry. The quote says, "Parents who say this child has no ability harm the development of so many children with this horribly mistaken idea." Dr. Shinichi Suzuki. So believing in your child's ability, no matter how much practice, no matter how much rightness or correct things you're getting, is the thing which needs to be the banner of the work. And number 4 is let your child use child time. Now, child time does not mean being distracted or going to the toilet 5 times in 5 minutes, or just checking their telephone, or just wanting to tell you another story. Child time is the time which takes a child to process any thought. Let's say you are deciding to work on something and your child is getting time to be ready. Your child is putting the hand, I'll give an example of piano. Your child is putting the hand on the piano, on the keys. And you are saying something about finger 3, but finger 3 does not move at the speed that you expected it to move, because it takes time for the brain to give the demand. It takes time for the process to get through the body to the fingers. By you helping, by pushing what you know, is not helpful. Actually, quite the opposite. So letting child have the time to think and process. And this is gift for life. Dr. Suzuki said, every child can be educated to a high level depending on his parents. And the good news is that it will become, for you parent, natural and easy, like teaching your child to talk, to walk, to tie shoes, etc. I don't think you remember this process as something which was beyond your ability, or it was too tedious, or took too much time. You knew that your child will speak when your child is ready to speak. You knew that your child will tie the shoes when the child is ready to tie the shoes. Another quote about Suzuki is, the level of mother's understanding and cooperation directly affects the child's progress. So you need to be observant. You need to teach yourself to observe your child and see when she is ready to move to the next level of independence. And you gradually move to the back seat. So step by step, your role is changing as the child moves through the repertoire, as the child goes from book 1 to book 2 to book 3 to book 4, and develops musicality, develops practice habits, develops listening habits. For instance, putting the recording is definitely parents' role at the beginning stages. And when do you not need to do it anymore? When you see that your child actually goes to the CD player and pushes the button. And you're asking, I can hear you asking, will it ever happen? It will, but not very soon. Not in book 1, maybe not in book 2, maybe not in book 3. The thing which I really recommend you to do is not send your child to put on the CD, unless your hands are wet and you're busy doing another thing while you want to listen. So step by step, your role is changing, except for one thing. The one thing that never ends is your belief in your child's ability. Every child has an unlimited potential, Suzuki words. And the more years I teach, the more I see how right it is. Every human being has got an unlimited potential. And let me finish with one more quote by Dr. Suzuki. The anchor of children's lives is the belief that their parents are their greatest protection. Thank you very much. And feel free to ask questions and join me on Facebook page or YouTube page, or even maybe my mailing list if you want to be notified every time a new recording or a new workshop, a new webinar is coming. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a pleasure being with you. Greetings.